One night stand between a cold billionaire and black woman leads to an undeniable steamy romance. I'm going to tell you how a one-night stand with a cold, emotionally unavailable billionaire turned into the love of my life. But I need you to understand something first. When I met Steven Williams, he'd signed his divorce papers that morning. I was sworn off relationships completely. Neither of us was looking for this. And that's exactly why it worked. Close your eyes for just a moment. Think about the last time a story made you feel something real. Made your heart race. Made tears fall without permission. Made you remember why being human is so beautifully complicated. That's what we do here at CJ Stories. Whether you're returning or just discovering us, welcome home. This is your safe space for tears, laughter, hope, and everything in between. Today's story will take you somewhere unexpected. It'll make you think. It'll make you feel. And I promise you, you won't see the ending coming. But here's the thing, the magic only works if you stay till the very end. No skipping. Just you, me, and a story that might just change how you see the world. If it moves you, let me know you're here, subscribe, like, and share this with someone whose heart needs touching today. Ready? Let's step into today's story. The champagne had stopped tasting expensive 3 glasses ago. Mary Fain stood at the edge of the ballroom in Charleston's historic Bellman Charleston Place Hotel, watching couples glide across the marble floor like they'd been waltzing since birth. The October evening had turned the French Quarter into something magical outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, all gas lamps and autumn air, but inside she felt like an imposter wearing a borrowed dress. She was 33 years old, a successful event photographer who'd shot hundreds of galas just like this one. The difference was she usually stood behind the camera, not in front of it. But her best friend Simone had insisted, practically shoving the invitation into her hands along with a lecture about living a little. "You spend every weekend working," Simone had said. "When's the last time you actually enjoyed one of these fancy parties instead of documenting other people enjoying them?" Mary couldn't remember. Somewhere between building her business from nothing and proving to everyone who doubted her that she could make it, she'd forgotten what fun felt like. She was about to call it a night when she saw him. He stood near the bar, and the first thing she noticed was how everyone else seemed to notice him too. Tall, maybe 6'2", with dark hair that looked like he'd run his hands through it once too many times. White, sharp-featured, wearing a tuxedo that had definitely been tailored specifically for his frame. But it was his eyes that caught her. Even from across the room, she could see they were a striking green, and they looked absolutely miserable. A man who clearly didn't want to be at a party he probably sponsored. Interesting. Mary watched as a blonde woman in a dress that cost more than Mary's camera equipment approached him, touching his arm with practiced familiarity. He said something brief, extracted himself with the efficiency of someone who'd done it 1,000 times, and moved toward the terrace doors. She should have let him go. Should have finished her champagne, thanked Simone for the invitation, and gone home to her cat and her editing software. Instead, she found herself following him outside. The terrace overlooked the courtyard, all palmetto trees and southern charm. The October air was perfect, cool enough to be comfortable but still holding summer's warmth. He stood at the railing, loosening his bow tie with one hand while checking his phone with the other. "If you're trying to escape, you're doing it wrong," Mary said. "Everyone knows the terrace is the first place they'll look." He turned, and up close he was even more striking. Sharp jaw, the kind of bone structure that belonged in magazines, and those green eyes that seemed to calculate and dismiss her in the same glance. "I'll take my chances," he said. His voice was deep, controlled, with the faint accent of old Charleston money. "Steven Williams, right? I saw your name on the donor board inside." Something shifted in his expression. Not quite suspicion, but close. "And you are?" "Mary Fain. I'm crashing, technically." "Well, not crashing. My friend Simone works for the foundation. She thought I needed to see how the other half lives." "And what's the verdict?" "The champagne's good. The small talk's predictable. And you look like you'd rather be anywhere else." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "That obvious? To someone who usually photographs these things instead of attending them?" "Very." He studied her for a moment, and she felt the weight of his attention like something physical. She was used to being behind the camera, the observer, invisible. This felt like being seen under a microscope. "You're a photographer," he said. "Events, mostly. Weddings, galas, corporate functions. I'm good at capturing people pretending to have a better time than they're actually having." Sounds cynical. Sounds honest. He laughed, and it transformed his entire face. Suddenly he didn't look cold or calculating. He looked real. "Steven," he said, extending his hand. "Mary." His grip was firm, warm, and lasted a fraction of a second longer than necessary. "So why are you really out here, Steven? Besides the obvious escape from admirers." He leaned against the railing, and some of the tension seemed to leave his shoulders. Obligation. My company sponsored this event. If I don't show up and smile at the right people, my assistant sends me passive-aggressive emails for a week. What company? Williams Maritime Solutions. We handle logistics and shipping along the East Coast. Mary raised her eyebrows. You're not just on the donor board. You're the donor board. My grandfather started the company in 1952. I just inherited the responsibility of keeping it running. Just, she repeated. I'm sure it's that simple. It's not. He looked at her with something like surprise, as if he hadn't meant to be that honest. What about you? Why are you really here if you'd normally be working? My best friend thinks I work too much. She might be right. Might be. Is definitely right, Mary admitted. I started my business 4 years ago, after my father died. He always said I had a good eye, that I should do something with it. So I did. And somewhere along the way I forgot there's supposed to be a life outside of work. I understand that. The way he said it made her think he really did. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, the sounds of the party muted behind them, the Charleston night wrapping around them like a secret. Can I ask you something? Mary said. You're going to anyway. She smiled. Fair point. Why do you look so miserable at a party you sponsored? Stephen was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was lower, more careful. Because I spent the day finalizing my divorce papers. And everyone in that room either wants to offer condolences I don't need or introduce me to their available daughters like I'm some kind of prize. How long were you married? 6 years. Together for 8. We signed the papers this morning. I'm sorry. Don't be. It should have ended 3 years ago. We were just too stubborn or too scared to admit we'd become strangers. Mary recognized the hurt under the words. The kind that came from trying and failing and trying again until there was nothing left but exhaustion. For what it's worth, she said, you don't look like a prize. You look like a person who's had a long day and needs a real drink, not whatever watered-down thing they're serving inside. He looked at her, really looked at her, and something shifted between them. An awareness, electric and unexpected. There's a bar 2 blocks from here, he said. Small place, no one from this crowd. They make an old-fashioned that's worth the walk. Mary knew she should say no. Should thank him for the conversation, go back inside, find Simone. This man was a billionaire fresh off a divorce, and she was a woman who'd spent the last 4 years building a business and avoiding anything that looked like a complication. But when he looked at her like that, like she was the first real thing he'd seen all day, she found herself nodding. Lead the way. The bar was called the Gin Joint, tucked into an alley off King Street. The kind of place locals knew about and tourists walked past. Dark wood, low lighting, a bartender who greeted Stephen with a nod of recognition. They took a booth in the back. Stephen ordered 2 old fashions without asking, and Mary decided to let it slide because he'd been right about the quality. So you come here often enough that the bartender knows you, Mary said. It's quiet. And they don't ask questions. What kind of questions would they ask? How it feels to fail at the one thing you're supposed to get right. How it feels to build an empire and realize you're eating dinner alone every night in a house too big for one person. Mary sipped her drink, letting the burn of good whiskey ground her. You want honesty or platitudes? From you? Honesty. Then I'll say this. Failure is staying in something that doesn't work because you're too scared to start over. You didn't fail. You made a hard choice. Stephen studied her across the table. You're very direct. I'm 33 years old and I've spent the last 4 years proving I could build something from nothing. I don't have time for games or pretty lies. 33, he repeated. I'm 37. Just old enough to know better and just young enough to still make mistakes. Is this a mistake? Mary asked. Being here with me? I don't know yet. Ask me in the morning. The words hung between them, full of implication and possibility. Mary felt her pulse quicken. She'd had exactly 2 serious relationships in her life. One in college that ended when he graduated and moved to California without asking if she wanted to come. One 3 years ago that ended when he told her she cared more about her camera than she'd ever care about him. Maybe he'd been right. Maybe she had. But sitting across from Stephen Williams, watching the way the low light caught the planes of his face, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Want? Tell me something real, Stephen said. About what? About you. Something you don't put in your professional bio or tell people at parties. Mary considered the question. I still have my father's last camera. A Nikon FE2 from 1983. It doesn't work anymore, but I keep it on my desk. Sometimes when I'm editing and I get stuck, I pick it up and remember why I started doing this in the first place. Why did you start? Because he saw the world differently. He could find beauty in anything. A rusted fire escape, rainwater in a gutter, my mother's hands folding laundry. He taught me that photography isn't about capturing what's there. It's about capturing what it feels like to be there. He sounds like he was a good man. The best. He died of a heart attack 4 years ago. Sudden, no warning. One day he was here, the next he wasn't. It broke something in me. And building my business, throwing myself into work, that was how I put myself back together. Stephen reached across the table and covered her hand with his. The gesture was simple, but it felt enormous. I'm sorry you lost him. Thank you. They sat like that for a moment, his hand warm over hers, something unspoken building between them. My turn, Mary said. Tell me something real. Stephen pulled his hand back, but slowly. I haven't felt anything in 2 years. Not really. I've been numb, going through the motions, signing the papers and making the deals and pretending I'm fine. But tonight, sitting here with you, I feel something. And it scares me. What do you feel? Alive. Mary's breath caught. She knew she should be careful. Should protect herself. This man was complicated, wealthy, fresh off a divorce. Every rational part of her brain was screaming to slow down. But her heart, the part of her that had been locked away since her father died, since she'd thrown herself into work and forgotten what it felt like to connect with another person, that part was wide awake. I live 6 blocks from here, she said quietly. A loft above a bookstore on Broad Street. Stephen's eyes darkened. Mary. I know this is fast. I know we just met. I know all the reasons this is a bad idea. But I'm tired of being careful. I'm tired of living behind a camera instead of being in the moment. And right now, in this moment, I want to see where this goes. Stephen stood, reaching for his wallet. He threw down enough cash to cover the drinks and a generous tip, then extended his hand to her. Are you sure? Mary took his hand, feeling the warmth of his skin, the strength in his fingers. I'm sure. The walk to her loft took 7 minutes. Neither of them spoke. The October air had cooled further, and Charleston streets were quiet, the tourists mostly gone to dinner or back to their hotels. Mary's pulse thundered in her ears, awareness of him beside her making every step feel weighted with intention. She unlocked the door to the building, led him up the narrow stairs to the 2nd floor. Her loft was small but hers. Exposed brick, hardwood floors, one wall completely covered in framed photographs. Her desk sat near the window, her father's old camera exactly where she'd said it would be. Stephen walked to the wall of photographs, studying them in the dim light from the street lamps outside. You took all of these? Most of them. Some are my father's. He stopped in front of one. A black and white image of an elderly couple on a bench in Marion Square, holding hands, looking at each other like they were the only 2 people in the world. This one, he said. This is what you were talking about. It's not about them. It's about what it feels like to love someone for 50 years. 62, Mary said softly, moving to stand beside him. They told me after I took it. Married 62 years. Stephen turned to face her, and the space between them felt electric, charged with everything unspoken. I need you to know something, he said. I don't do this. I don't meet someone at a party and end up at their apartment. I don't feel this kind of pull toward someone I just met. Neither do I. Then what is this? Mary reached up, touching his face. His skin was warm, and she felt him lean into her palm. I think this is 2 people who've been alone for too long finding each other at exactly the right moment. Stephen kissed her. It started gentle, questioning, giving her space to pull away if she wanted. But Mary didn't want space. She wanted this. Wanted him. Wanted to feel something other than the endless cycle of work and sleep and waking up to do it all again. She kissed him back, and gentle became urgent. His hands in her hair, her fingers gripping his jacket, both of them reaching for something they couldn't name but desperately needed. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Stephen rested his forehead against hers. Stay, Mary whispered. Stay tonight. Yes. One word, but it felt like a promise. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul. Now let us continue. Morning light filtered through the loft windows, soft and golden, painting stripes across the hardwood floor. Mary woke slowly, awareness returning in layers. The unfamiliar weight of an arm across her waist. The steady breathing behind her. The scent of expensive cologne mixed with something earthier, more human. Stephen. She turned carefully, not wanting to wake him, and found him already awake, watching her with those green eyes that seemed less guarded than they had the night before. Hi, she said. Yusuf. They lay there for a moment, the morning settling around them. Through the window, she could hear Charleston waking up. The bookstore owner below unlocking his shop, a delivery truck rumbling past, church bells from St. Michael's marking 7 o'clock. I should probably feel awkward right now, Mary said. But I don't. Neither do I. Which is strange because I'm usually very good at awkward morning afters. Lots of practice? God, no. I meant the few I've had were disasters of epic proportions. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. This doesn't feel like a disaster. What does it feel like? Stephen was quiet, considering. Like I don't want to leave yet. Mary's phone buzzed on the nightstand, shattering the moment. She glanced at it. 3 texts from Simone, each one more insistent than the last. Where are you? You better not have gone home early. Mary Elizabeth Fane, you better be doing something exciting. Mary smiled, typing back a quick response. I'm fine. Tell you later. Important? Stephen asked. Just my friend wondering if I survived the party. She's going to lose her mind when I tell her about this. Are you going to tell her? Eventually. Simone's been my best friend since college. She knows everything about me. Well, almost everything. This is definitely new territory. Stephen sat up, the sheet falling to his waist, and Mary allowed herself a moment to appreciate the view. He was lean but muscular, the kind of build that came from discipline rather than vanity. I need to be honest about something, he said. I have a meeting at 9. Conference call with Singapore that I can't reschedule. But I'd like to see you again. If you want that. I want that. Dinner tonight? Somewhere quiet where we can actually talk. Mary nodded. I'd like that. Stephen reached for his phone, then stopped. Can I have your number? The actual way, not the billionaire way where I have my assistant track you down through mutual connections. She laughed, taking his phone and entering her information. The fact that you specified billionaire way is slightly terrifying. Only slightly? I'm reserving judgment. He kissed her, slow and thorough, until her phone buzzed again and they both groaned. I really do have to go, he said. I know. But it took another 20 minutes before he actually left, stolen kisses at the door, promises to text, the kind of reluctant goodbye that felt like a beginning rather than an ending. After he left, Mary stood in her loft, still wearing his t-shirt from the night before, and tried to process what had just happened. She'd spent one night with a man she barely knew, and instead of feeling reckless or stupid, she felt hopeful. Her phone rang. Simone, of course. I'm coming over, Simone announced. And you're going to tell me everything. 30 minutes later, Simone sat on Mary's couch, her dark eyes wide with disbelief. Stephen Williams. As in Williams Maritime Solutions. As in the Stephen Williams who just finalized his divorce from Catherine Morrison Williams last week. How do you know that? Because unlike you, I read the society pages. Mary, do you have any idea who he is? A man who was miserable at a party and needed someone to talk to. Simone shook her head, but she was smiling. Only you would meet a billionaire and focus on the fact that he looked sad. What happened? Mary told her, leaving out the intimate details but sharing the important parts. The conversation on the terrace, the bar, the walk to her loft. The way he'd looked at her photographs. The way the morning had felt. He wants to see me again tonight, Mary finished. And you said yes. I said yes. Simone studied her for a long moment. You really like him? I barely know him. That's not what I asked. Mary sighed, curling into the corner of the couch. Yeah. I really like him. Which is insane because we just met and he's clearly dealing with a lot and I have no business getting involved with someone this complicated. But when I'm with him, I feel like myself. Not the version of myself I present to clients or the version that's all business and no play. Just me. Simone reached over and squeezed her hand. Then see where it goes. Just promise me you'll be careful. Not because I don't trust him, but because I know you. When you let someone in, you let them all the way in. I'll be careful. Liar, Simone said affectionately. But I love you anyway. Stephen texted at noon. Still thinking about this morning. Confirmed dinner for 7. Magnolias on East Bay Street. Private table. Mary smiled at her phone, typing back. Sounds perfect. Should I dress up? Depends. How do you feel about me spending the whole night distracted by how beautiful you look? Flirting via text. I didn't think billionaires did that. This one does. See you tonight. Mary spent the afternoon editing photos from a wedding she'd shot the previous weekend. A couple in their mid-40s, second marriage for both of them, radiating the kind of quiet joy that came from knowing exactly what they wanted. She'd captured a moment during their first dance where they'd both started laughing at something only they could hear, and looking at it now, she felt a pang of recognition. That's what she wanted. Someone to laugh with. Someone who saw her. Maybe Stephen could be that person. Maybe it was too soon to think that way. She pushed the thought aside and focused on her work. At 6:30, she stood in front of her closet, debating. The black dress was safe, professional. The deep blue one was riskier, more revealing. She chose the blue. Magnolias was everything she'd expected. Historic building, low lighting, the kind of place where Charleston's old money and new money mingled over she crab soup and shrimp and grits. Stephen was already there when she arrived, seated at a corner table that offered privacy without isolation. He stood when he saw her, and the look on his face made the risky dress absolutely worth it. "You're beautiful," he said simply. "You clean up pretty well yourself." He was wearing dark slacks and a white button-down, no tie, sleeves rolled to his elbows. Casual elegance that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe but didn't feel ostentatious. They ordered wine, and then the conversation flowed like they'd been doing this for years instead of hours. He told her about his morning call with Singapore, a shipping contract that had taken months to negotiate. She told him about the wedding photos, about capturing moments that told a story. "Do you ever want to do something different?" Stephen asked. "Fine art photography, exhibitions, that kind of thing?" "Sometimes. My father always encouraged me to push myself creatively. But events pay the bills, and they're reliable. I like knowing I can support myself, that I built something sustainable." "That makes sense. Especially after losing him." Mary nodded. "After he died, I realized how fragile everything is. How quickly it can all disappear. Building my business was about creating something stable, something I could control." "Control is an illusion," Stephen said quietly. "I learned that the hard way." "Your marriage?" "Among other things. I spent years thinking if I just worked hard enough, planned well enough, everything would fall into place. But you can't plan for people changing. For waking up one day and realizing you're living parallel lives instead of a shared one." "When did you know it was over?" Stephen was quiet for a moment, swirling the wine in his glass. "About 2 years ago. We were at a dinner party, one of those obligatory social things. Someone asked what we were doing for our anniversary, and we both froze because neither of us could remember when it was. Not forgot to plan something. Couldn't remember the actual date. That must have hurt. It was more sad than painful. We'd become so disconnected that our wedding anniversary didn't even register anymore. We tried counseling, tried taking trips together, tried everything except the one thing we should have done. Which was? Be honest that we'd become different people than we were when we met. She wanted a life I couldn't give her. I wanted a partner who understood that my work isn't just about money, it's about legacy. My grandfather built that company from nothing. Keeping it running, growing it, that matters to me." Mary reached across the table, touching his hand. "It's okay for that to matter. My ex-wife thought it meant I cared more about the company than her." "Did you?" Stephen met her eyes. "Honestly? Toward the end, yes. Because the company was the one thing that didn't disappoint me. It was the one place where hard work actually led to results. But that's not fair to her or to what we had. She deserved someone who could put her first. And you deserved someone who understood what drives you. Maybe." Their food arrived, and the conversation shifted to lighter topics. He asked about her favorite spots in Charleston, and she told him about the early morning walks through the Battery, coffee at the Daily on Cannon Street, photographing the sunrise at Waterfront Park. "I've lived here my whole life," Stephen said, "and I think you know the city better than I do. You've been busy building an empire. I've been wandering around with a camera looking for beauty. Show me sometime. Your version of the city." "Is that a third date request?" "That's an every date request if you'll let it be." Mary felt her heart skip. "You're moving fast." "I know. Does that bother you?" She thought about it, really considered the question. "No. It scares me a little, but it doesn't bother me. I've spent 4 years being careful, being safe, focusing on work. Maybe it's time to try something different." "What changed?" "You did. Meeting you reminded me that there's supposed to be more to life than building a business and going home alone every night." Stephen reached for her hand, threading his fingers through hers. "I haven't felt this clear about anything in years. I know it's fast. I know I'm probably supposed to take time to process the divorce, be alone, figure myself out. But being with you doesn't feel like running from something. It feels like running toward something." "Toward what?" "I'm not sure yet. But I'd like to find out." After dinner, they walked along the Battery, the October night perfect and clear. Charleston Harbor stretched out before them, lights from Fort Sumter twinkling in the distance. Stephen had his jacket draped over her shoulders, and they walked slowly, neither wanting the night to end. "Can I ask you something personal?" Mary said. "After last night, I think personal questions are allowed. Why did you really come to that party? You said obligation, but you could have sent a representative. Made a donation and skipped the event." Stephen was quiet for a long moment. "Because my lawyer suggested it. Said I needed to be seen, to show everyone that I was fine, that the divorce was amicable, that business would continue as usual. Image management. How did that work out?" Terribly. Until I met you. They stopped walking, and Mary turned to face him. The streetlights cast shadows across his face, but his eyes were clear. I need to know what we're doing here, she said. I'm not good at casual. If this is just about not being alone right now, I need you to tell me. This isn't casual for me, Mary. I know it's fast, and I know I'm probably supposed to be a mess right now. Maybe I am a mess. But I also know that I haven't felt this connected to anyone in years. Maybe ever. I feel it too. But I'm scared. Of what? Of getting hurt. Of falling for you and realizing you're not ready for this. Of being another chapter in your rebound story. Stephen cupped her face in his hands. I can't promise I won't hurt you. I can't promise I have all my stuff figured out. But I can promise that this is real for me. What I feel when I'm with you, that's real. Mary kissed him, pouring all her hope and fear and want into it. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, she rested her forehead against his. Take me home, she whispered. Your place or mine? Yours. I want to see where you live. Stephen's house was in the historic district, a 3-story Charleston single house that had been in his family for generations. All high ceilings and crown molding, antique furniture mixed with modern touches, the kind of place that should have felt like a museum but somehow felt like a home. This is where you grew up? Mary asked, walking through the main floor. Part of the time. We also had a place on Kiowa Island. But this house, this was always home. My grandfather bought it in 1955, completely restored it. My father inherited it, and now it's mine. It's beautiful. It's too big for one person. Mary turned to look at him. Is that why you're rattling around in here alone? You couldn't let go of the family home? My ex-wife hated it. She wanted something modern, something in Mount Pleasant or Daniel Island. Somewhere that didn't come with 4 generations of history and expectations. We fought about it for 2 years before she finally moved out. You chose the house over your marriage? You chose honesty over pretending. She wanted me to be someone I'm not. And I wanted her to understand why this mattered. We were both wrong and both right. Mary walked to the window, looking out at the garden below. My father used to say that homes carry memories. That you can feel the love or pain that happened in a place if you pay attention. What does this house feel like to you? Stephen came to stand behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Right now? It feels like possibility. They made love slowly, carefully, learning each other in the soft darkness of his bedroom. Afterward, they lay tangled together, the October breeze from the open window cooling their skin. Stay, Stephen said. Stay tonight. I have an early shoot tomorrow. A corporate event at the Charleston Harbor Resort. I'll drive you home early. I want to wake up with you again. Mary turned to face him, tracing the line of his jaw. This is getting serious very quickly. Is that a problem? I don't know yet. Ask me in the morning. He smiled, recognizing his own words from the night before. Fair enough. Mary drifted off to sleep in his arms, and for the first time in 4 years, she didn't dream about her father or her business or all the things she needed to do tomorrow. She just slept, peaceful and content. When she woke, early morning light was just beginning to filter through the windows. Stephen was already awake, watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. What are you thinking about? She asked. How I'm supposed to let you go to work when all I want is to spend the day with you. Come with me. To your corporate shoot? Why not? You can see what I actually do. Plus, it's at the marina. You probably know half the people there anyway. Stephen considered it. I have a lunch meeting at 1. But I could come for the morning session. Then it's a date. Sort of. A working date. He kissed her, morning breath and all. I'll take whatever kind of date I can get. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul. Now let us continue. 2 weeks later, Mary stood in Stephen's kitchen making coffee while he finished a conference call in his study. It had become their routine. Some nights at her loft, some nights at his house, mornings that started with tangled sheets and ended with stolen kisses before they both rushed off to work. She'd never felt anything like this. The ease of it. The way he fit into her life and she fit into his, like puzzle pieces that had been waiting to connect. Her phone buzzed with a text from Simone. Lunch today? Haven't seen you in forever. Mary smiled, typing back. Forever being 2 weeks? You're in the honeymoon phase. I'm allowing it. But seriously, lunch. I miss my best friend. They agreed to meet at Callie's Hot Little Biscuit at noon, and Mary was still smiling when Stephen emerged from his study, looking frustrated. Problem? She asked, handing him coffee. The Singapore deal is hitting complications. Nothing catastrophic, but enough to be annoying. I might need to fly out there next week. Mary felt a small twist in her stomach. How long would you be gone? 4 or 5 days. Maybe a week depending on how negotiations go. He pulled her close, kissing her forehead. Come with me. Stephen, I can't just drop everything and fly to Singapore. Why not? Bring your camera. Shoot the city while I'm in meetings. We could explore together in the evenings. It was tempting. Incredibly tempting. But Mary had 3 shoots scheduled for the following week, including a wedding she'd booked 8 months ago. I have commitments, she said. A wedding on Saturday, 2 corporate events during the week. Can't you reschedule? The wedding? No. People plan these things a year in advance. I can't just bail because my boyfriend wants me to fly to Asia with him. Stephen set down his coffee cup. I know. I'm sorry. I'm not thinking clearly. This deal has me stressed, and the thought of being away from you for a week is making it worse. It's only a week. I know. But we're still so new. What if a week apart changes things? Mary cupped his face in her hands. A week isn't going to change how I feel about you. We'll text, video call, send each other ridiculous photos of our respective days. And when you get back, we'll make up for lost time. He kissed her, deep and thorough. I'm falling in love with you. The words hung in the air between them, huge and terrifying and wonderful. Stephen. You don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. But Mary realized she wanted to say it. Had wanted to say it for days now, ever since the morning he'd shown up at her corporate shoot and spent 3 hours watching her work with a look of complete fascination on his face. I'm falling in love with you too, she said. Which terrifies me because it's so fast and we barely know each other and every logical part of my brain says I should slow down. But my heart doesn't care about logic. They made love right there in his kitchen, urgent and needy, like they could somehow store up these moments against the coming separation. Lunch with Simone was exactly what Mary needed. Her friend took one look at her and grinned. You're glowing. It's actually disgusting how happy you look. Mary laughed. I'm that obvious? You practically float when you walk. So things are good with Stephen? Really good. Scary good. They ordered biscuits and settled into a corner table, and Mary found herself telling Simone everything. The late-night conversations, the way he listened when she talked about her father, how he'd started keeping her favorite tea at his house even though he only drank coffee. He sounds wonderful, Simone said. So why do you look worried? He's leaving for Singapore next week. And I know it's just business, I know it's only a few days, but I can't shake this feeling that something's going to change. Change how? I don't know. Maybe he'll realize that having a girlfriend who can't just drop everything and travel with him is inconvenient. Maybe the distance will give him perspective and he'll see that we moved too fast. Simone reached across the table and took her hand. Or maybe you're borrowing trouble because you're scared of being this happy. Mary, I've known you for 12 years. I've never seen you like this with anyone. Not even with Marcus. Mary flinched at her ex-boyfriend's name. Marcus had been her last serious relationship, 3 years ago, and it had ended badly. He'd accused her of being married to her work, of caring more about her business than their relationship. Maybe he'd been right. This is different than Marcus, Mary said. I know it is. Because Stephen understands what drives you. He's the same way about his work. What if that's the problem? What if we're both so focused on our careers that we don't have room for a real relationship? Has it felt that way so far? Mary thought about the past 2 weeks. The way Stephen had rearranged his schedule to have breakfast with her. The way she'd started leaving her evenings free so they could have dinner together. The compromise, the effort, the mutual prioritizing. No, she admitted. It's felt balanced. Then trust that. Trust him. Trust yourself. Mary wanted to. But sitting there in the coffee shop, watching couples and families and people going about their ordinary lives, she felt the familiar fear creeping in. The fear that she was setting herself up for heartbreak. That she'd let someone in too far, too fast, and when it inevitably fell apart, she'd be devastated. Her phone buzzed. Stephen. Lunch meeting got moved up. Probably won't be home until late. Miss you already. She smiled despite her anxiety, typing back. Miss you too. I'll be at the loft tonight working on edits. Come to my place when you're done? I don't care how late. Mary hesitated, then typed. Okay. That evening, she lost herself in editing work. A corporate event from the previous week, hundreds of shots to sort through and perfect. She loved this part of her job, the quiet focus, the creative decisions about light and composition. It was meditative, grounding. Around 9, her phone rang. Stephen's lawyer, David Morrison. She'd met him once, briefly, when she'd stopped by Stephen's office to surprise him with lunch. Mary, I'm sorry to call you directly. Is Stephen with you? No, he said he had a late meeting. Is something wrong? David was quiet for a moment. His ex-wife showed up at the office this afternoon. She wants to contest the divorce settlement. Mary felt her stomach drop. I thought that was all finalized. It was. But apparently her lawyer found some loophole regarding the division of company assets. It's complicated, and frankly it's probably just a negotiating tactic to get more money. But it could drag things out for months. Does Steven know? I've been trying to reach him all evening. His phone goes straight to voicemail. Mary checked her own messages. Nothing since his text about the late meeting. I'll track him down and have him call you. After David hung up, Mary sat staring at her phone. She tried calling Steven. Voicemail. Tried texting. No response. An hour later, she was pacing her loft, genuinely worried. It wasn't like him to go radio silent. Finally, at 10:30, her phone rang. Mary, I'm so sorry. Steven's voice was rough, exhausted. My phone died during the meeting and I just got back to my car. David's been trying to reach you. Your ex-wife is contesting the divorce settlement. The silence on the other end of the line was heavy. Steven? I'm here. I just need a minute to process this. Do you want me to come over? No. I mean, yes, but not tonight. I need to call David, figure out what's happening. This is going to be a mess, Mary. A long, ugly, public mess. I can handle a mess. Can you? Because this is going to mean lawyers and court dates and my ex-wife's name linked to mine in every Charleston society column for the next 6 months. It's going to mean questions about my personal life, speculation about why the marriage really ended. It's going to be invasive and exhausting. Mary heard something in his voice. Not just stress. Something darker. Distance. Talk to me, she said. Tell me what you're really thinking. I'm thinking that I've dragged you into my complicated life without considering the consequences. I'm thinking that you deserve better than this. Don't I get a say in what I deserve? Mary, we've known each other 2 weeks. 2 incredible weeks, but still. This divorce situation could take months to resolve. Are you really ready to sign up for that? I'm ready to be with you. Whatever that involves. You say that now. But when photographers are camped outside your loft trying to get pictures of us together, when your clients start asking questions about your personal life, when this becomes a distraction from your work, you might feel differently. So what are you saying? That we should take a break until your divorce is completely finalized? I'm saying maybe we moved too fast. Maybe we both got caught up in something that felt good without thinking about the reality of merging our lives. Mary felt like she'd been slapped. Is this really about the divorce? Or is this about you getting scared because we said we're falling in love? Steven was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. Maybe both. I just know that sitting here right now, facing the possibility of months of legal battles, I feel like I'm drowning. And I don't want to drag you under with me. That's not your choice to make alone. We're supposed to be in this together. Are we? Mary, we've known each other 14 days. We don't even know each other's middle names or favorite movies or what we're like when we're really angry. We've been living in this bubble of perfect mornings and late-night conversations, but that's not real life. It's real to me. I need some time to think. To deal with this situation with Catherine and figure out what I can realistically offer you right now. Mary felt tears burning behind her eyes. So that's it? You're just pulling away. I'm trying to be responsible. I care about you too much to hurt you. You're hurting me right now. Steven's voice was pained. I know. And I'm sorry. I just need some space to handle this without worrying that I'm ruining your life in the process. How much space? I don't know. A few days. Maybe until after I get back from Singapore. That's almost 2 weeks. I know. Mary closed her eyes, fighting the urge to beg him not to do this. She'd promised herself after Marcus that she'd never beg someone to choose her. That she'd never make herself small or convenient or easy to accommodate. Okay, she said quietly. Take your time. Figure out what you want. But Steven, when you do, be honest with me. Don't string me along if you've decided this is too complicated. I will. I promise. After they hung up, Mary sat in the dark loft and let herself cry. Simone's voice echoed in her head. Trust him. Trust yourself. But how could she trust this when he'd pulled away at the first sign of real difficulty? The next few days passed in a blur of work and sleepless nights. Steven texted twice, brief messages about needing time to sort through legal issues. Mary responded with equal brevity, not trusting herself to say more. Simone came over on Wednesday night with wine and Thai food. He's an idiot, Simone declared, settling onto the couch. He's dealing with a lot. He's running scared. There's a difference. Mary picked at her pad thai. Maybe he's right though. Maybe we did move too fast. 2 weeks isn't enough time to build something real. Says who? My parents knew after 3 days they were going to get married. They've been together 38 years. That's different. How? I don't know. It just is. Simone set down her wine glass. You're doing that thing where you convince yourself you're not worthy of being chosen. Stop it. I'm not doing that. Yes, you are. Ever since your dad died, you've thrown yourself into work because it's safe. Cameras don't leave you. Clients don't break your heart. But Steven isn't Marcus. He's not running because he doesn't care. He's running because he does care and it scares him. How do you know? Because I've seen how he looks at you. Like you're the first real thing he's seen in years. Men don't look at women that way and then just walk away without a fight. Mary wanted to believe her. But sitting in her loft alone for the third night in a row, Steven's absence felt like a statement of its own. On Friday, she had a wedding to shoot. The couple was lovely, genuinely in love, and watching them exchange vows made Mary's chest ache. She captured the moment when the groom saw his bride walking down the aisle, the pure joy on his face, and had to blink back tears behind her camera. This was what she wanted. Someone who looked at her like that. Someone who showed up, who stayed, who didn't run when things got complicated. That evening, she was downloading the wedding photos when her doorbell rang. She wasn't expecting anyone, and for a moment her heart leaped thinking it might be Steven. It wasn't. A woman stood in the hallway, elegant and polished, with auburn hair and the kind of poise that came from years of cotillion and junior league meetings. Mary knew who she was before she even spoke. Catherine Williams. Steven's ex-wife. Can I help you? Mary asked, keeping her voice neutral. I'm Catherine. I assume Steven has mentioned me. He has. May I come in? I'd like to talk to you about my husband. Ex-husband. Catherine's smile was tight. Not quite yet, as it turns out. That's actually what I wanted to discuss. Every instinct told Mary to close the door, to not engage. But curiosity and something darker, something that needed to understand what she was dealing with, made her step aside. Catherine walked into the loft with the assessing eye of someone used to evaluating real estate and finding it wanting. Mary watched her take in the exposed brick, the photographs on the walls, the modest but carefully curated space. Charming, Catherine said, and it didn't sound like a compliment. Very bohemian. What do you want, Catherine? To give you some advice. Woman to woman. I'm listening. Catherine turned to face her, and her expression was hard. Steven is going through a difficult transition right now. He's confused, hurt, looking for something to make him feel better about the failure of our marriage. You're that distraction. I'm not a distraction. Aren't you? A photographer he met at a party right after we signed divorce papers? Someone completely outside his usual world? That's textbook rebound behavior. Mary felt her throat tighten. You don't know anything about our relationship. I know Steven. I was married to him for 6 years. I know that when he's stressed, he retreats. I know that he's brilliant at business and terrible at expressing his feelings. I know that he'll let work consume him and expect you to understand. And I know that eventually, you'll realize what I did. That loving Steven Williams means always coming second to his company, his legacy, his obligations. If that's true, why are you contesting the divorce? Catherine's composure cracked slightly. Because I gave him 6 years. 6 years of my life, of supporting his career, of being the perfect wife at every charity gala and business dinner. And when it ended, when he finally admitted we'd become strangers, I realized I'd lost myself in the process. The settlement I agreed to doesn't reflect what I sacrificed. That's between you and Steven. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you. Because he's already choosing his complications over your relationship. He's already pulling away. And that's what he'll keep doing every time real life intrudes on the fantasy you've been living. Mary wanted to argue, but the words stuck in her throat. Because Catherine was saying out loud the fears that had been circling in Mary's head for days. I'm not trying to be cruel, Catherine continued, her voice softening slightly. I'm trying to save you from making my mistake. Don't lose yourself in loving someone who can't put you first. After Catherine left, Mary sat in the dark loft feeling hollowed out. She'd spent the last week telling herself that Steven just needed time, that he'd work through his stress and come back to her. But what if Catherine was right? What if this was just the first of many times he'd retreat when things got difficult? Her phone buzzed. Steven. Landed in Singapore. Meetings start tomorrow. Can we talk? Mary stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed back. Your ex-wife came to see me tonight. The phone rang immediately. What did she say to you? Steven's voice was sharp with concern. That I'm a distraction. That you're going through a rebound. That loving you means always coming second. Mary, none of that is true. Isn't it? You asked for space the second things got complicated. You're halfway around the world right now. And I'm sitting here wondering if I'm fighting for something you've already decided isn't worth the effort. That's not what's happening. Then tell me what is happening, Steven. Because I feel like I'm losing you and I don't even understand why. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul. Now let us continue. Stephen's voice came through the phone rough with exhaustion and something deeper. I'm sitting in a hotel room in Singapore at 2 in the morning, and all I can think about is how badly I've handled this. Mary closed her eyes, pressing the phone closer to her ear. Then help me understand. Talk to me. When Catherine showed up at my office wanting to reopen the settlement, my first instinct was to protect you from all of it. The lawyers, the publicity, the mess. I thought if I pulled back, gave myself time to clean it all up, I could come back to you with a clear slate. That's not how relationships work, Stephen. You don't get to decide what I can handle. I know. I'm realizing that now. But in the moment, all I could think was that I'd finally found something real, something good, and I was about to ruin it with all my baggage. Mary walked to the window, looking out at the Charleston night. Catherine said I'm a rebound. That you're using me to feel better about your failed marriage. Did you believe her? I don't want to. But Stephen, we moved so fast. We went from strangers to saying we're falling in love in 2 weeks. What if she's right? What if we're both just trying to fill empty spaces? The silence on the other end stretched long enough that Mary wondered if the connection had dropped. I need to tell you something, Stephen finally said. Something I haven't told anyone, not even my lawyer. I'm listening. The reason my marriage really ended wasn't because we grew apart or wanted different things. It ended because I realized I'd never actually been in love with Catherine. Not really. We made sense on paper. Our families approved, we moved in the same circles, we understood each other's worlds. But I never felt that pull, that need to be with someone that overrides logic. Stephen. I felt it with you. The night we met, standing on that terrace, I felt more alive talking to you for 10 minutes than I'd felt in 6 years of marriage. And that terrified me. Because how could something so new feel more real than something I'd spent years building? Mary sat down on the couch, her legs suddenly unsteady. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because I was still processing it. Because I thought maybe I was being impulsive or reckless. Because admitting that my marriage was built on compatibility instead of love felt like admitting I'd wasted years of my life. You didn't waste anything. You learned what you don't want. I learned what I do want. You. This. Whatever we're building together. Mary felt tears on her cheeks. Then why does it feel like you're pushing me away? Because I'm scared. Not of my feelings for you. Of my capacity to hurt you. My ex-wife wasn't entirely wrong. I do get consumed by work. I do struggle with putting personal relationships first when business crises arise. Those are real patterns I need to change. I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm asking you to be honest with me and let me be part of your life, complications and all. Even if those complications include a legal battle with my ex-wife that could take months? Even if it means photographers trying to get pictures of us together? Even if it means sometimes I have to fly to Singapore on short notice and I can't take you with me? Yes. Even then. Stephen, I have my own complications. I work weekends, I sometimes prioritize my clients over my personal life, I still dream about my father and wake up crying. We're both messy, complicated people. That's what real relationships are. She heard him take a shaky breath. I miss you. I've been gone less than a day and I miss you so much it physically hurts. I miss you too. When I get back, we need to really talk. About what we want this to be, about how we navigate our careers and our relationship, about all of it. Okay. And Mary? Don't listen to Catherine. She's hurt and angry, and she's trying to poison what we have because she sees it as a threat. Whatever you and I are building, it's ours. Not hers. After they hung up, Mary sat in the quiet loft feeling wrung out but also lighter somehow. The conversation hadn't solved everything, but it had given her hope. The next few days passed slowly. Stephen texted her between meetings, sending photos of Singapore's skyline at night, the view from his hotel room, a street market he'd walked through on his lunch break. She sent him photos of Charleston, a sunrise over the harbor, the bookstore cat that lived downstairs, her coffee cup with terrible latte art. Small moments, but they felt like threads connecting them across the distance. On Tuesday, Simone stopped by the loft with lunch. You look better, she observed. Less like you've been crying into your pillow every night. We talked. Really talked. About the hard stuff. Mary told her about the conversation with Catherine, about Stephen's admission that he'd never really been in love with his ex-wife, about their commitment to figure out how to make this work. Good, Simone said firmly. That man is not stupid enough to let you go. I hope not. But we still have a lot to work through. His divorce situation, how we balance our careers, what we actually want from this relationship. Those are good problems to have. They're the problems of two people who actually care about building something real. Mary smiled. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You've just been too busy being practical to notice. That evening, Mary was editing photos when her phone rang. Stephen, his face filling the screen via video call. Hi, she said, her heart lifting at the sight of him. Yourself? I have news. Good news or bad news? Complicated news. The Singapore deal is taking longer than expected. I need to stay through the weekend. Mary felt disappointment settle in her stomach. So you won't be back until next week? Tuesday at the earliest. I'm sorry. I know we were supposed to talk when I got back. We can talk now. Stephen ran his hand through his hair, and she could see the exhaustion in his face. I want to do this in person. I want to see you, hold you, not have this conversation through a screen. Okay. Then we wait until Tuesday. There's something else. My lawyer called. Catherine's lawyer reached out with a settlement offer. It's more than the original agreement, but not unreasonable. David thinks I should take it, end this before it becomes a protracted court battle. What do you think? I think I don't care about the money. I just want it done. I want to close that chapter completely so I can move forward. With me. With you. With my life. With everything. They talked for another hour, about nothing and everything. He told her about the negotiations, the cultural differences he was navigating, how he'd tried Singapore street food and immediately regretted it. She told him about the wedding she'd shot, about a new corporate client who wanted her to photograph their annual retreat in Savannah. You're good at what you do, Stephen said. I love watching you work. The way you see moments other people miss. You've seen me work exactly once. Once was enough to know you're brilliant at it. After they hung up, Mary lay in bed thinking about the future. A week ago, she'd been convinced this was falling apart. Now she felt cautiously optimistic that they could actually make it work. The weekend passed quietly. Mary shot a birthday party on Saturday, spent Sunday organizing her office and backing up files. She avoided social media, avoiding the temptation to search for news about Stephen's divorce or Catherine's settlement demands. On Monday morning, her phone rang. An unknown number. Is this Mary Fain? A woman's voice, professional and clipped. Yes. Who's calling? My name is Rebecca Chen. I'm a reporter with the Charleston Post and Courier. I'm writing a piece about Stephen Williams and his divorce settlement. I understand you've been seeing him. Mary's stomach dropped. I don't have any comment. I'm going to be publishing the story tomorrow. It would be better if you gave me your perspective rather than letting me rely on other sources. What other sources? Friends of Catherine Williams who say you began your relationship with Stephen while he was still married. That the affair is what really ended the marriage. That's not true. Stephen and I met after his divorce was finalized. So you are in a relationship with him? Mary realized she'd been trapped into confirming exactly what the reporter wanted. I'm hanging up now. The story runs tomorrow with or without your comment, Ms. Fain. Mary immediately called Stephen, but it went to voicemail. Time difference. He was probably in meetings. She left a message explaining what happened, then texted him the same information. 20 minutes later, her phone rang. Stephen, his face tight with anger on the video screen. I just talked to my lawyer. Catherine's team leaked information to the press to pressure me into a bigger settlement. I'm so sorry you got dragged into this. They're saying we had an affair. That I'm the reason your marriage ended. We'll issue a statement with the timeline. We have proof the divorce was filed weeks before we met. My lawyer is already drafting something. Stephen, this is exactly what you were afraid of. The publicity, the mess, my name being dragged through the mud. I know. And I know I gave you an out last week. If you want to take it, I'll understand. I'll have my lawyer make it clear you had nothing to do with the divorce. I'll keep your name out of everything going forward. Mary sat with the offer, feeling the weight of it. This was her chance to walk away clean, to avoid the scrutiny and speculation. To protect herself. But walking away meant losing Stephen. And despite the complications, despite the stress and the fear, she didn't want that. I'm not going anywhere, she said firmly. We face this together. Are you sure? Mary, this could get uglier before it gets better. I'm sure. Issue the statement with the real timeline. Let the truth speak for itself. Stephen's expression softened. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway. The article published the next morning, exactly as the reporter had promised. It was as bad as Mary had feared. Unnamed sources painting her as the other woman, speculation about how long the affair had been going on, suggestions that she was a gold digger going after Stephen's fortune. Her phone started ringing at 7 a.m. Other reporters, people she barely knew asking if the rumors were true, even a few clients expressing concern about the negative publicity. Simone came over immediately, finding Mary sitting on her couch staring at her laptop in disbelief. "Don't read the comments," Simone ordered, physically closing the laptop. Too late. Apparently I'm a home-wrecking opportunist who seduced a vulnerable divorced man. Anyone who knows you knows that's garbage. But most people don't know me. My clients, potential clients, they're seeing this and making judgments. Then we control the narrative. You have a business social media presence, right? Post something. Not defensive, just factual. The truth is on your side. Mary spent an hour crafting a simple statement for her business Instagram and Facebook pages. Professional, dignified, stating only the facts. That she'd met Stephen Williams at a charity event in October, weeks after his divorce was finalized. That their relationship was private and personal. That she wouldn't be commenting further. Stephen's lawyer issued a similar statement, backed up with documentation showing the divorce timeline. By Tuesday afternoon, several media outlets had published corrections, acknowledging the timeline discrepancy. It didn't stop the speculation entirely, but it took the teeth out of the affair allegations. Stephen called that evening from the airport. "I'm boarding now. I'll be back in Charleston tomorrow morning. I'll pick you up." "You don't have to do that." "I want to." When she arrived at Charleston International Airport on Wednesday morning, she felt nervous in a way she hadn't since their first date. It had been 8 days since she'd seen him in person. 8 days of stress and revelation and coming to terms with what they meant to each other. She spotted him coming through the arrivals gate, rumpled from the long flight, carrying a suit bag and a briefcase. Their eyes met across the terminal, and everything else fell away. He dropped his bags and pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "I'm so sorry," he said into her hair. "For all of it. For pulling away, for the media circus, for not being here when you needed me. You're here now." They stood like that for a long moment, travelers flowing around them, neither caring about the spectacle they were making. Finally, Stephen pulled back enough to look at her. "I meant what I said in Singapore. I want to build something real with you. I want to figure out how to balance our careers and our relationship. I want you to meet my family, I want to meet yours. I want all of it. I want that too. But we need to be smart about this. We need to communicate better. I need to stop trying to protect you from my complications and trust you to handle them with me. And I need to stop assuming the worst when things get difficult. We're both learning." Stephen cupped her face in his hands. "I love you." Not falling in love. Not moving toward it. "I love you, Mary Fain. Completely and terrifyingly and without reservation." Mary felt tears streaming down her face. "I love you too. Even though you're stubborn and sometimes you retreat when I need you to stay. Even though this is complicated and messy and probably going to get messier. I love you." He kissed her there in the middle of the airport, and it felt like a promise. Like a commitment to choose each other every day, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. "Take me home," Stephen said when they finally broke apart. "Your place or mine?" "Ours. Let's go home." Don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more emotional and heart-touching stories that speak to the soul. Now let us continue. 3 months later, Mary stood in Stephen's kitchen on a Saturday morning in late January, watching frost patterns form on the windows while coffee brewed. The house had stopped feeling like just his place somewhere around Thanksgiving, when she'd accidentally left a toothbrush in his bathroom and he'd cleared out 2 drawers for her without asking. Now half her wardrobe lived in his closet, her camera equipment had a permanent spot in his study, and the refrigerator held her almond milk next to his regular cream. Stephen emerged from his morning run, cheeks flushed from the cold, and kissed her before heading upstairs to shower. These quiet domestic moments had become her favorite part of their relationship. The ordinary magic of building a life together. The past 3 months hadn't been easy. Catherine had eventually accepted the settlement in early November, and the divorce was finally, completely finalized. The media attention had died down once the affair allegations were thoroughly debunked. Mary's business had actually grown, several clients specifically seeking her out after seeing her graceful handling of the publicity. But there had been challenges. Learning each other's rhythms, negotiating time together when both had demanding careers, figuring out how to fight fairly when disagreements arose. They'd had their first real argument in December when Stephen had to cancel their plans for the 3rd weekend in a row due to work emergencies. Mary had been hurt, Stephen had been defensive, and they'd spent a miserable evening in silence before finally talking it through. They'd learned from it. Set boundaries, established priorities, promised to communicate better. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Her phone buzzed with a text from Simone. "Still on for brunch tomorrow?" Mary smiled, typing back. "Wouldn't miss it. Bringing Stephen. About time I get to interrogate him properly. You've met him 4 times. And I still have questions." Stephen came back downstairs, hair damp, wearing jeans and a sweater that made his green eyes even more striking. "What are you smiling about?" he asked. "Simone wants to interrogate you at brunch tomorrow. She terrifies me." "Good. She's supposed to." He poured coffee for both of them, adding exactly the right amount of cream to hers without asking. Small gestures like that still made her heart skip. "I have something I want to show you today," Stephen said. "If you're free." "I have editing work, but it can wait." "What is it?" "A surprise. Dress warm." An hour later, they were driving out of Charleston, heading north on Highway 17. Mary watched the landscape change from city to suburbs to stretches of lowcountry marsh and forest. "Are you going to tell me where we're going?" she asked. "Patience." They turned off the highway onto a smaller road, then onto a dirt lane that wound through tall pines. Finally, Stephen stopped in front of a gate, punched in a code, and drove through. The property that opened up before them took Mary's breath away. A sprawling plantation house, beautifully restored, sat at the end of a long oak-lined drive. Beyond it, she could see the Wando River glinting in the winter sunlight. "Stephen, what is this?" "A property that came up for sale last month. I've been looking at it as a potential investment." They got out of the car, and Stephen led her around the grounds. The house was magnificent, all high ceilings and original hardwood floors, fireplaces in nearly every room. But it was the land that truly captured Mary's imagination. Acres of it, with mature trees and gardens waiting to be brought back to life, a dock on the river, a small guest house that would be perfect as a photography studio. "It needs work," Stephen said as they stood on the back porch looking out at the river. "The previous owners let some things go. But the bones are solid. It's beautiful. I bought it yesterday." Mary turned to look at him. "You bought it?" "I've been thinking about what you said months ago. About this house in Charleston being too big for one person. About how homes carry memories. I want to make new memories, Mary. With you." Her heart was pounding now. "Stephen, I'm not asking you to move in immediately. I know we've been together less than 4 months. I know we're still figuring things out. But I'm asking if you can see a future here. With me. If you can imagine this being ours." Mary looked out at the property, at the potential stretching before them. She could see it. Morning coffee on this porch, photographing the changing seasons on these grounds, dinner parties with Simone and other friends, maybe someday children running through these rooms. "I can see it," she said softly. "I can see all of it." Stephen pulled her close, and they stood together watching the river flow past, planning out loud. Where her studio would go, how they'd restore the gardens, whether to keep the formal dining room or open it up into the kitchen. "There's one more thing," Stephen said. "The guest house. I was thinking it could be more than just your studio." "What do you mean?" "A space for other artists too. Photographers, painters, writers. A place where creativity happens. You could run workshops, mentor emerging photographers, build a community." Mary felt tears prickling her eyes. He'd been listening, really listening, to all her half-formed dreams about expanding beyond event photography, about teaching and creating and giving back. "You've been thinking about this for a while," she said. "Since November. Since you mentioned wanting to do more fine art work but not having the space or time. This could give you both. It's perfect. You're perfect. I'm really not. But I'm trying to be the partner you deserve." They spent the rest of the day exploring the property, making plans, dreaming together. On the drive back to Charleston, Mary felt something settle in her chest. A sense of rightness, of coming home. That evening, Stephen made dinner while Mary worked on editing in his study. It was comfortable, easy, the kind of ordinary evening that felt extraordinary because they were together. "Mary?" Stephen called from the kitchen. "Can you come here for a minute?" She found him standing by the counter, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "Everything okay?" she asked. "I need to ask you something. And I need you to be completely honest, even if you think it's too soon or too much." Her pulse quickened. "Okay. Do you see a future with me? Not just living together eventually or sharing the plantation house. Do you see forever?" Mary stepped closer, taking his hands. "Yes. I see forever. Even knowing that I'll sometimes get too focused on work? That I'll probably cancel plans occasionally? That I come with complicated family dynamics and a very public business profile? Even knowing all of that. Do you see forever with me, even knowing I'll prioritize my work sometimes? That I still cry about my father when I least expect it? That I can be stubborn and independent to a fault? Especially knowing all of that." Stephen reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Mary's breath caught. "I was going to wait," he said. "Do this at the plantation house, or some grand romantic gesture. But standing here in the kitchen on an ordinary Saturday night, this feels right. This feels like us." He opened the box, revealing a stunning ring. A deep blue sapphire surrounded by diamonds, unique and beautiful. The sapphire reminded me of that dress you wore on our first real date, Stephen said. Blue like the ocean, like possibility. Mary Fane, I know we've only been together a few months. I know by conventional standards this is fast. But I also know that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to build that future at the plantation house. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to support your dreams and have you support mine. I want all of it, all of you, for the rest of our lives. Will you marry me? Mary was crying now, happy tears streaming down her face. Yes. Absolutely yes. Stephen slipped the ring on her finger, and it fit perfectly. Then he was kissing her, and she was laughing and crying at the same time, overwhelmed with joy. I love you so much, she said against his lips. I love you too. More than I thought possible. They called Simone first, who screamed so loudly Stephen had to hold the phone away from his ear. Then Stephen's parents, who were thrilled and immediately started planning an engagement party. Mary's mother, who cried and said her father would have loved Stephen. Later that night, lying in bed with Mary's head on his chest, Stephen traced lazy patterns on her shoulder. What are you thinking about? Mary asked. How different my life was 4 months ago. I was going through the motions, checking boxes, convincing myself I was fine. Then I met you, and everything changed. You changed my life too. I'd forgotten what it felt like to be truly happy. To want something beyond my work. We're going to be good at this. At marriage, at building a life together. How do you know? Because we've already survived the hard parts. The doubt, the fear, the outside pressure. We chose each other through all of it. That's what marriage is. Choosing each other every day. Mary lifted her head to look at him. I'm going to choose you every single day for the rest of my life. Good. Because I'm going to do the same. They made love slowly, tenderly, celebrating the commitment they just made. Afterward, Mary traced the lines of Stephen's face in the darkness. Can I tell you something? She said. Always. That night we met, when you looked so miserable at the party, I almost didn't follow you outside. I almost went home. What made you change your mind? I saw something in you. Something that called to something in me. Like recognizing a piece of myself I didn't know was missing. I felt it too. Like the universe was giving me one more chance to get it right. Did we get it right? Stephen kissed her forehead. We're getting it right. Every day, we're getting it right. 6 months later, on a perfect July evening, Mary stood in the garden of the plantation house wearing a simple white dress and holding a bouquet of wildflowers. The restoration was still ongoing, but they'd prioritized the gardens for exactly this reason. Simone stood beside her as maid of honor, adjusting Mary's veil and wiping away tears. You look beautiful, Simone said. Your dad would be so proud. Mary touched the vintage Nikon camera hanging around her neck on a ribbon. Her father's camera, the one that didn't work anymore but held every memory of him. Her something old. I wish he could be here. He is here. In every photograph you take, every moment you capture, every beautiful thing you create. He's here. The music started, and Mary walked down the aisle toward Stephen, who stood under an arbor draped in white flowers and greenery. His eyes never left her face, and the look in them made her heart soar. They'd written their own vows. Stephen spoke first, his voice steady and sure. Mary, you taught me that love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone whose imperfections fit perfectly with yours. You saw me at my worst and chose to stay. You challenged me to be better, to communicate more, to let you in even when it scared me. I promise to choose you every day. To support your dreams as fiercely as you support mine. To be honest even when it's hard. To make you laugh when you're taking life too seriously. To hold you when you cry about your father. To build this life with you, moment by moment, photograph by photograph, day by day. I love you completely, and I can't wait to spend forever showing you just how much. Mary took a shaky breath, tears already falling. Stephen, for months before I met you, I'd convinced myself I was fine alone. That my work was enough, that building my business was all I needed. Then you walked onto that terrace looking miserable at a party you'd sponsored, and everything changed. You reminded me that life is meant to be lived, not just documented. That love is worth the risk, worth the fear, worth every moment of vulnerability. I promise to be your partner in all things. To call you out when you're working too much, as long as you do the same for me. To make space for both our dreams. To communicate even when I want to retreat. To love you on the hard days as much as the easy ones. You're my favorite person, my best friend, my home. I love you, and I choose you, today and every day after. The officiant pronounced them husband and wife, and when Stephen kissed her, the small gathering of family and friends erupted in applause. The reception was intimate, held on the back lawn with the river as a backdrop. They'd hired a photographer, a talented young woman Mary had been mentoring, but Mary also set up several cameras on timers throughout the space. She wanted to capture the candid moments, the in-between times when people forgot they were being watched. During their first dance, Steven pulled her close and whispered, "Happy? Unbelievably happy. You. I didn't know I could feel this complete." Later, as the sun set over the river and guests mingled with champagne and low-country cuisine, Steven's mother pulled Mary aside. "I need to tell you something," Elizabeth Williams said. "I've never seen my son like this. This happy, this present, this alive. Thank you for loving him the way he deserves to be loved. He makes it easy. Marriage isn't always easy. But I can see you two have something special. You balance each other." Mary looked across the lawn to where Steven was talking with Simone, probably being interrogated again. As if sensing her gaze, he looked up and smiled, that smile that was just for her. "We do balance each other," Mary agreed. "He pushes me to dream bigger. I keep him grounded. Together we're better than we are separately." "That's the secret," Elizabeth said. "You've already figured out what takes some couples years to learn." As the evening wore on and the stars came out, Mary found herself standing by the river with Steven, stealing a quiet moment away from their guests. "Your studio is almost finished," Steven said, pulling her against his chest. "Another 2 weeks and you can start running those workshops. I'm nervous about it. What if no one signs up?" "They will. You're brilliant, and people want to learn from you." "How do you always know exactly what to say?" "Because I know you. And I believe in you." They stood in comfortable silence, listening to the water and the distant sounds of their reception. "Can you believe we almost didn't happen?" Mary said. "If I hadn't followed you onto that terrace. If you hadn't suggested that bar. If either of us had been too scared to take the risk. But we did. We took the risk, and look where we are now." Mary turned in his arms to face him. "Where are we?" "Home. We're home." And standing there on their wedding night, on the property they'd chosen together, surrounded by the life they were building, Mary knew he was right. This was home. Not the house or the land, but the man holding her. The partnership they'd forged. The love they'd chosen. They'd started with one night that was supposed to be simple, uncomplicated. Instead, it had become the beginning of everything. Steven kissed her as the moon rose over the river, and Mary thought about all the moments she'd photographed over the years. Weddings and celebrations, joy and connection, people finding each other and choosing each other. Now she was living it. Creating her own story, one beautiful moment at a time. "Dance with me," Steven said, even though there was no music by the river. "There's no music. We don't need music." So they danced in the moonlight, swaying to a rhythm only they could hear, and it was perfect. 2 years later, Mary stood in her studio at the plantation house, reviewing photos from her latest workshop. 8 emerging photographers had spent the weekend learning about capturing authentic emotion, about finding the story in ordinary moments. Through the window, she could see Steven playing in the yard with their daughter, Emma Rose, who'd just turned 1. Her dark curls bounced as she toddled after butterflies, Steven following closely to catch her when she inevitably tumbled. Mary raised her camera and captured the moment. Father and daughter, backlit by golden afternoon sun, pure joy on both their faces. These were the moments she lived for now. Not the grand events or corporate shoots, though she still did those. But the quiet magic of everyday life. The family she'd built with Steven. The community of artists who gathered at their home. The workshops where she passed on everything her father had taught her about seeing beauty in the world. Steven looked up and caught her watching. He waved, said something to Emma, and they both started walking toward the studio. "Mama," Emma called, arms outstretched. Mary scooped her up, breathing in the baby smell of her, while Steven kissed her temple. "Good workshop?" he asked. "Really good. I think 3 of them are ready to start booking their own clients. I'm proud of you. Look at what you've built here." Mary looked around the studio, then out at the property beyond. The gardens they'd restored together. The house filled with love and laughter. The life they'd created from that one chance meeting on a terrace in October. "We built it," she corrected. "Together." "Together," Steven agreed, pulling both his girls close. And in that moment, with her husband's arms around her and their daughter babbling happily, Mary understood what her father had meant all those years ago. Photography wasn't about capturing what was there. It was about capturing what it felt like to be there. And this, right here, felt like everything. Their story had started with one night between strangers. It had grown into a love that transformed them both. And now it was a legacy they'd pass on to their daughter, teaching her that taking risks on love, on connection, on the possibility of more, was always worth it. Always. Do not forget to subscribe.